Good evening, dear friends. Welcome to ALLATRA TV UK. Today we're here for you and the future of Earth to answer your questions, to find the way forward together with Dr. Debashish, Alexei and myself. Please use the live chat option to express your opinion or ask related questions while watching us. And in this live broadcast, we will hear an example leading life story of a special man, Dr. Debashish, and talk, of course, about creative society and discuss how it's important to get the 8 foundations of creative society embedded in our everyday life. Just to remind you, those foundations are the result of thousands of social surveys, live broadcasts, roundtables, interviews, and international conferences conducted around the world as part of the Creative Society project. And it's truly what all people want, people all over the world, and we are able to get united and achieve it. Just need you to stand with us. Please find more detailed information on allatraunites.com website or drop us an email. Contact details are available on the website as well. I'd invite Alexei here.
Hello, dear friends. My name is Alexei, and it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest today, Dr. Debashish Sengupta, an award-winning author and an avid researcher who produced a number of best-selling books and who amalgamates the field of human behavior, social psychology, human resource management, generation studies, and engagement. Dr. Debashish has received several research awards in his career spanning over 2 decades. Yes, his research papers have been published in leading international journals and presented in international conferences. Dr. Debashish is a much sought speaker at various business forums, an executive coach and business consultant to various Indian and multinational companies. His strategic and practical insights guide leaders of large and small organizations worldwide. Besides this, he occasionally writes for reputed business media and is on the editorial panel of several international journals and publishing groups. Very warm welcome, Dr. Debashish.
Thank you very much for this wonderful and warm introduction. Thanks to both of you. I'm very happy to be here. And hello to all our viewers.
We have a collage prepared, and we would ask you to tell us a bit more about yourself.
Okay, I think you've told already what needs to be told, perhaps. And but I think I'm very fortunate to have got the opportunity to do what I like doing, what I love doing. I'm basically a professor. Currently, I work with Royal University for Women in the Kingdom of Bahrain, and been teaching for more than 20 years now to in the higher education. So I love teaching, and I got the opportunity to teach. I love writing. I got an opportunity to write. So I think that's what I would perhaps say about myself. That I've been very fortunate to be able to do what I love doing in my life.
Dr. Debashish, you are originally from India, and now you live in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Yeah. You
Yes.
also studied remotely in universities of Nicaragua and Mexico, and you've taught students from India, from United States, Europe, and Far East. Yeah. So you definitely know a lot of people from many parts of the world. Yeah. What would you say? Are people fundamentally different in different regions of our globe? Do they have different needs, different wishes, or different dreams, maybe?
Okay, it's not an easy question to answer, but when you say, what I think, what I found different was in perspective of the culture, where, of course, culturally people are slightly different, and those cultural contexts do exist. And those differences do exist, but at the same time, there is one thing that I think I always found, whether I was interacting with people, my mostly, people who have been my students, from any part of the world, is one thing, that the human needs, basic human needs or human values, or the need for those values, or have always been same. Particularly when if I go to talking about the two generations, and millennials and Generation Z, which I have the maximum opportunity to work in my research or in my writing. If you look at these two generations are far more alike across the world than any other previous generations have been. Right. So, what I'm trying to say in short is these two generations are very similar across different parts of the world, wherever wherever you go. And although, as I said, cultural contexts do exist. And why has that happened? Because of the explosion of social media. Right. I'm not saying that millennials in US or millennials in India or millennials in Middle East would be exactly similar. No, they won't be. But in many ways, their attitudes, the mindsets are very, very similar. And those attitudes and mindsets have united primarily because of the connectedness that we have all experienced. The ubiquitous media, the social media, has connected the world like never before. And hence, today, wherever you live, in whichever part of the world you live, you are connected to people in different parts of the world. You have access to the information. So it's a very global context that we all live in. And that has kind of also kind of created that kind of similarity that exists in attitudes and mindsets of people. And that's why it has been very interesting whenever I had an opportunity to discuss my research, or or train people or consult companies in different zones or different countries or different continents. And I've always found a lot of confirmation coming that the findings of my research have not been really limited to a particular region or nation, and there is some common chord that runs across, especially for these two generations.
Yeah, as you said, generally we're all the same and we have the same needs to fulfill during a day. We need food, we need to brush our teeth in the morning, and our wishes actually similar more or less, because we all want to be loved, to love, to respect, to be respected, to be listened, to be heard, to talk to somebody. Yeah, I think this kind of quality is quite similar to everyone. But as you said, yeah, of course, cultural influence is still in place, and depending on where you live and what is your surroundings. Thank you, Dr. Debashish. And what is your message about human fundamentals education we all should have? So where to get those qualities to make your own and others' life happier?
In terms of, just to add to what I was saying before, is human, I think from the perspective of human values, when we talk about, I think the first and foremost thing is whether we can see a human as just a human without really creating labels about that person, whether, it is about gender, whether it is about nationality, whether it is about religion, whether about region, whether about color or the ethnicity. If we can keep aside all these labels and just see a human being as a human being, and treat that human being with love and respect, and show and exhibit compassion and empathy towards that human being, I think that is the first and foremost thing. I think that's most important, which because I think if we believe that there is a creator, and then the best way to love the creator or to show respect to the creator is to first show love and respect to the creation, without bringing in these narrow divisions or labels, which perhaps are all created by man, and then never were created in the first place. So I think for me, praying would be equivalent to, if I can treat in the whole day, if I can treat whoever I meet with love and respect, and that's prayer for me. If I'm not doing that, no matter how hard I pray, how whatever I try to do, I think all is in vain, simply because I have not done what I should have done. And then everything really is just hollow lines, whatever I'm saying as a part of whatever I've memorized. So that's what I think. I think is to treat the fellow human being with love, respect, compassion, and empathy, without really labeling them with any kind of labels.
Yeah, we desperately need all these values in order to build better society. Dr. Debashish, we know that you are well aware of the Creative Society project and of the 8 foundations for building the Creative Society. I would suggest that we watch a short video to let those who don't know about the project to get familiar with it and to get some idea of the foundations. Dr. Debashish, please, could you share with us your vision of the society you'd like to live in, you'd like your family to live in, your friends, people surrounding? What's the ideal world for you? How do you see it?
I think when I look at the foundations, in fact, just now the video was played, and I look at these 8 foundation. There are certain things which always which struck me, and one was that the focus is on human being. The whole human focus that these foundations have. Number one. Number two, that they are egalitarian, which are built on the principles of justice and equality. Now, equality doesn't mean equal that everybody will have equal, because it also depends upon our efforts, our initiative, how much ready we are to work hard. But equal means in terms of equal opportunities, when without any when we say equality, it means a society which is free of discrimination, which is not discriminating people based on any of the criteria, whether whatever we talked about just now. So, and the third is that these are utopian, which is basically taking us towards the perfect society that we all dream, in terms of that. So for that, I think what we call is that for that to happen, I think the fundamental aspect is change, that whether we are ready to change. And many of us talk about change, but forget to change ourselves. The change starts with ourselves. When we change ourselves, then the change has begun. But it will be a vain effort to try to change the world without really trying to bring about that change in ourselves. So we have to, I think, it is about how do we build that kind of utopian society. Is it possible? I think it is possible. Is it difficult? Of course, it's difficult. No good work has ever been easy. But you will see that there are when we see, I think the most basic organization is home, right? So there are beautiful homes, where we are, people living in those homes have built a beautiful ecosystem within that house. Although there may be so many kinds of disturbances outside that home, but within that ecosystem, they have built a beautiful home because of how people have, the kind of belief systems on which that home is built. Same as you will see for it is true for certain organizations or certain teams. So is it possible? Yes, it's possible, but I think it starts when we look at, I think the responsibility is both with the people and the leaders, right? When we look at the responsibility with people, with each one of us, is to self-reflect and go for self-renewal, which means whether we can reflect within ourselves and see what we can change. What are the mistakes that we are making, or what are the subconscious biases that we might be having? Maybe not conscious, but subconsciously we might have those biases. So that's the responsibility with each one of us. And I think the responsibility also lies a lot with people who are privileged to be or have chosen for themselves leadership, and whether they are political leaders, whether they are organizational leaders, societal leaders. Because when you talk about leadership, it is about showing direction, the right direction, creating that right kind of environment, leading by example. So I think that the responsibility lies at all those aspects. And today, I think we need it most, because when I look at, we talked about similarities and differences. Look about what is currently the world is going through. Right. So when we look at, I think we all have same problem, around the world. How many times has it happened that everybody, all the 7 or 8 billion people who live on this planet, have faced the same challenge, same problem? If this cannot unite us, then what will unite us? If this cannot open our eyes, then what will be the eye opener? That today it is not like if I am okay, then it's okay. I am okay when my neighbor is okay. It's not like only I am okay. If my neighbor is not okay, tomorrow I will not be okay. This pandemic has taught us, whether it is the next person living in the neighboring house, or in the neighboring apartment, or in the neighboring country. We know that, something which starts in one corner of the world spread more, caused more ravages in other parts of the world. Why? Because we live in a world where these connections are impossible to break. So we have to realize that it's not like just I am okay and you are not okay is no more the world. I am okay when you are okay, and you are okay and I am okay. I think that's something which we all have to learn, realize from whatever is happening. I'll not take names, but there are reports even in this situation, pandemic, people who are in extreme distress, facing a lot of challenges, whether it is in terms of food, medicine, shelter, whatever. They have been exploited by people who want to make some money out of this crisis. I think this is where I think we have to really look ourselves, introspect ourselves, that whether we are even human, when we do something like this, so I think that is leaders definitely have a responsibility, but the biggest responsibility lies with all of us, whether we can use this as an opportunity to realize if anything else before has not been able to make us realize, so that we need to bring about a change in the way we live, and perhaps take this opportunity to build a better society in the post-pandemic world.
Absolutely agree on that. Yeah, the more we change ourselves, as you said, start with changing yourself, and the more we change ourselves, the less bias, the less constraints we will create for others around us, because the more we respect and we care and we help each other, the more we will get in return. Just to make it clear for our viewers, Dr. Debashish, what do you mean by utopian society when you speak about creative society? It doesn't sound good for me.
No, when I said utopian, I think it's a I think it's when I say it's from what kind of society that perhaps we all dream of. What kind of society that we perhaps all aspire. We all, the values that you mentioned, whether it is about human life or human freedom, or whether it is about human safety or justice and equality, or development. So these are the things we have always been aspiring. This is what we want to build. We have talked about it in different contexts, sometimes in the context of justice and equality, when we talk about people from, whether they're divided by their economic prowess, or whether it is about the gender or ethnicity or color, where we have faced these things in different ways and we have always talked about it. So I think I always try to bring it to the current situation. If you look at, when this started last year, we all were thinking, when will we, will have the access to vaccines? But what happened when vaccines came? And how were they really? Were we really worried about who gets vaccine, or we just wanted to ensure that the one who has more money gets it faster? So I think there is a lot of short-sightedness in terms of the way we think the world is. World has changed. We have to realize it, whether it is realizing at a national, country levels, or whether it is realizing at a micro level or macro level. We know. I would repeat what I said before. I am okay, you are not okay is no more okay. It's not going to work, because that is going to come back and bite us, at one point of time. It's not going to possible. So imagine, today there are countries which are becoming much better in terms of, they're opening up within the country. But can they open to the outside world? Can people still travel freely? It's not possible. Why? Because there are countries which are, so can we, how much do you see that, okay, all countries have come together and said, okay, let's finish this from all over the world? We are just trying to. So I think, that when I said utopian, I didn't mean that it's not possible. I meant that this is something which is aspirational, which is something that we have all dreamt of, but it looks a little far because of the current situation, the current way, the current kind of thought process or mindsets or whatever way we think and process the things exist. That I think that's why we have to do a lot of work really to get to these. So that's what I meant.
Yeah, thank you for making it clear. Yeah, and creative societies when everyone is okay. So yeah, just do small steps for the big change in the future. Yeah. And I would also like to be back to millennials. Let's talk about Generation Y and Generation Z. You wrote 2 bestsellers about nowadays teenagers, and they're not quite the same as us when we were of their age, not long ago. Maybe there is something wrong with the current society, conditions we create for them.
I think it's, when we talk about, let's talk about both of them one by one, because, millennials and Generation Z are at different life stages, but there are definitely similarities. But when we talk about millennials, I have talked about this endless number of times in my previous talks. So to understand first who millennials and Gen Z are, millennials are born somewhere between 79 and 99. So you can look at the oldest millennial would be approximately perhaps around 40 something, and the youngest would be around 20, in their 20s. Whereas when we talk about Generation Z, they're born 2000 and between 2000 and 2020 or something. So they're mostly in their schools or finishing, or in their colleges or finishing colleges. So this is when we talk about these generations, how we classify them. Now, when we talk about millennials, of course, both these generations, I've always felt that there are a lot of misconceptions, misunderstandings, and myths about these generations which are harbored. And it's not like, that we are saying, trying to say that's fault of someone. It generally happens because people make up opinions based on observations, and what you observe is behaviors which are different. So when we talk about, say, the older generations, so Generation X and Boomers, so they look at these generations and perhaps they find their behaviors starkly different from theirs, and kind of triggers perceptions about these generations. But when we talk about behaviors are, I always say it's like an iceberg principle. What you see is very little, but what you don't see is actually what it matters, and it's the larger chunk. So, and if you don't pay attention, you're going to hit the same way that Titanic had its fate. So in other words, what lies beneath is their life realities, the changed environmental context which have shaped those realities and attitudes and mindsets, and that's why, because their attitudes and mindsets are different, and they have lived a different time, because of which their attitudes and mindset have been different, their behaviors are different. So if we really need to understand them, if we really want to understand them, then we have to understand those attitudes and mindsets. I always said that millennials lived a paradoxical life. They have lived lots of paradox. I'm not going to repeat most of them because, those who have listened to me before, they have heard me this. But if you look at, just to quickly touch upon this, like for instance, or they see so many friends on their social media accounts, yet in reality, in real friends, hardly they have one. So it says, I called it the friend paradox. Relationship choices are many, but yet the shelf life of those relationships, has really gone down. There are so many occasions to celebrate because we live in a very globalized world. So we don't really celebrate what we celebrate all the festivals, all the occasions, but there is hardly any time to celebrate. So you have different career options, but still the job instability is extremely high in today's world. So, if you talk about this, there is so much of, freedom and space that this generation aspired for, but at the same time there is a lot of loneliness that this generation has faced. So if we talk, it's like they have lived a paradoxical life. But look at if you look at in current context, I think millennials have had the most raw deal that any modern generation had in their prime years. And I'm talking about prime years, when the prime years are years where you have maximum opportunity to build a career, maximum opportunity to earn, maximum opportunity to save, invest. So that's your prime year, right? And this is the first generation that actually started earning less than what their parents used to earn. This is the first generation in the world and I'm not talking about face value. On face value terms, they may appear to earn more, but in real terms, in what we call as adjusted to inflation and purchasing power parity, if you see, they earn actually less. But look at what they have faced in their prime years. They have faced financial meltdown. They have faced 9/11 and related many other, volatility that the world has seen and has had an impact. And of course, now they have seen the pandemic, So if you look at, this is the generation, that's why I say that has faced maximum disturbance in their prime years. So what is the result? The result is that what career they envisaged for themselves, what kind of incomes they envisaged for themselves when they were perhaps in their schools and colleges, what future they envisaged for themselves, that has essentially not become the reality. What they got and what they dreamt of, what they felt that they would get, were very confident when they were in schools and colleges, they have actually not got that. So, the number of last 1.5 years, 2 years that we have been through, look at the number of job losses that have happened, the number of people have been laid off, the number of people who have lost their incomes. Majority of them are millennials. By the way, millennials and Generation Z today make up close to 63 to 64% of the world population. So you can think about these two cohorts make up close to 63 to 64% of the world's population today. So whatever you see in terms of impact, major impacts in terms of when you look at the job market, job losses or income losses, it has happened with millennials. You have to remember that. So, and at the same time, they are also challenged to learn a lot of new skills to keep themselves relevant in the future, because obviously you see the way we work, the way we live has changed in this last 1.5 years, so and it has necessitated to learn on the go and learn continuously and learn. So it's an excessive challenge that this generation faces. So look at Generation Z, like these people are who are in schools and colleges, right? Now look at what this current pandemic has done to them. Imagine, like these kids who cannot go out, they can't have a normal childhood. They don't know when they will be able to go to that playground and get together with their friends and play, right? So they are not able to go to schools. They are learning on their computers, and seeing their teachers and friends on computers. They do not know whether whatever dreams they had, whether they will become a reality in the future. What the future holds for us, we are not sure. So this is a tough call for this generation. Did we face such a thing? Like the other day, my son was asking for some fast food to be ordered. And generally, we try to keep a check on that, as much as this would be possible, but, just to ensure that he doesn't have too much of that. But when we said no to him, and he's asked why, because he said, obviously you have to keep check on that so that you keep a check on your health as well. So, what he told me was something which was shocking to me. He told me that, let me eat today. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. What holds for tomorrow. He's just 15-year-old. And he tells me that I don't know what will happen tomorrow. Let me eat today. So, if you think closely, you will, this is... I thought about this when I was in my teens. Did I ever think in this way? Never did I. I always thought that all these good times is going to last forever. I thought that all these whatever we do is going to last forever. We never thought that okay, let me have it today. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. So this is not only my son who's thinking like that. All this Generation Z who are kids, who are teens, who are they are thinking like that. Their thinking has changed. Their perception of their life, of the future. It's today and now. Tomorrow, nobody really trusts. Because of what they have seen in their. Imagine if it is so tough for us, how tough it is for the kids. How tough it is for them. So I think this is something where we have to understand that what these generations are going through. Millennials are at a different stage. Generation Z are at a different stage. But to be fair to them, they have faced what we didn't face in those years, in our life. So I think that is the foundation. That is the starting. If we accept that, to build that deep empathy that I always talk about. And that has been my effort, whether it has been through the research or my books or through my talks or whatever opportunity I've got to talk, is whether the society can develop that understanding about them, their life reality, and develop that empathy about them.
We should definitely do our best to understand both Y and Z generations, as well as we should do our best to understand all generations, because we should find mutual points of understanding, points of unity, and only then we will be able to create a better world for everyone. And it's a shame, to be fair, that today we have no certainty in our future, tomorrow. So, Dr. Debashish, irrespective of generations, just for the whole world, what would you call the main problems, the main troubles of the contemporary world? And what makes you sad most of all? How can we cope with this?
I think it is, I always think it is about, lack of empathy and compassion that we suffer from. Because I think once we have developed that, there would be a lot of things which can be changed. That, like for instance, when I was talking about these two generations, now I think there is a lot of the thinking that has to be done. I'm sure we will come out of this pandemic. There are already signs. There are countries which have reached very good stages and been able to contain it. And I'm sure our scientists and doctors and all who are fighting for this will be able to come out of this. But what after we come out of this? How will we then take care of the people who live in this world? A simple thing is, today we are all worried about the virus. Of course we should be, because that's the biggest problem. But just think what all this is doing to the mental health of people. We don't have time at this moment to think about it, right? But just because we don't have time doesn't mean it is not happening. It is happening. It is ravaging the mental health of people. People are going through the kind of troubles, the kind of pains that we cannot think of. It is unthinkable. Sometimes when you just read about it, it brings tears in your eyes. The kind of pain, and we all have gone through some of our share. We have all had panic attacks. Small things have triggered the panic for us. Just a little, somebody sneezes and you just start, panicking. That it is the start of something. So, look at the way it is impacting the mental health of how will we manage this in the future? How will we manage the kind of skills that will be required in the future? Like for instance, when we talk about Generation Z, are our schools and colleges ready for the kind of skills, the competencies that will be required by this generation in the future? Are we still operating the way we were operating? Will it really? Are we still teaching the way we were teaching? Are we going to be able to help this generation to be ready for the future, to be ready for the post-pandemic world, to be ready with those skill sets that are required in the post-pandemic world? What happens with millennials? How now that in the post-pandemic world, how do they stay relevant? What happens to people who have lost their jobs? What happens to people who have lost their income or potential incomes? How do we take care of them? So I think there is a lot of requirement for understanding, and that's why I say empathy is critical when we look at, and along with empathy, we need, of course, compassion, and we need purpose. That we need to think with purpose. How do we make the world future-proof? Not just from pandemics, but from the kind of challenges that humanity faces today, whether it is whatever we talked about. How do we future-proof the humanity and the world from those? So, we'll have to, I think everybody has to think from perspective. We cannot all, start thinking for the same thing. Wherever we are, whichever role we are, we have to think from that perspective. If I am an educator, if I am an academician, then I have to think how do I redesign the education system, the academic system, so as to make it aligned with the needs of the of this generation who are still in their schools and colleges. We still have an opportunity with them. If I am a political leader, if I'm leading a nation, then I have to think from the perspective of how can I how can I build a better society? How can I ensure that the society for the future, which takes care of the kind of ravages, the kind of challenge, problems that have surfaced. If I'm an organization leader, if I'm a CEO, I have to think from that perspective. So I think from everybody, wherever you are, I think we have to think from our context. And that I think will go a long way. If I'm a parent, I have to think from my child's perspective. So, I'm saying that whichever role we are in, we have to think, we have to develop this empathy and use that empathy to not only develop compassion, but also develop a purpose as to bring the necessary changes that should be brought to make the world future-proof, not just from the pandemic, but from all those challenges that humanity has faced or is facing.
Yeah, absolutely agree on that. And as you said, it's time of big changes, especially in from psychosocial point of view. And we should don't stay flexible, because this is the only way. And we should don't place the responsibility from you, still be responsible for your own actions. And and the way forward is create a society. This is the only way forward I see personally. And what is empathy for you, Dr. Debashish? Because the name of our program, Stay Connected, the power of empathy. As a coach and leadership expert, can you please share with us how we can connect all people on this planet, change their mindsets, attitudes, behavior?
I think that's what I said. Empathy is able to understand people. And when we look at understanding people or connecting with people, it happens both at a cognitive level as well as an emotional level. We have to rationalize with people. We have to understand how they rationalize to be able to rationalize with them. How do they rationalize to be able to rationalize with them. So it happens at a cognitive level also, and it also happens at an emotional level, right? So we have, many times we associate emotions with heart. It is actually the emotion and logic both reside in the brain. So I always say that it's interconnected. So empathy means understanding, and that understanding can happen when we care to do a little deeper introspection, dig a little deeper, rather than drawing conclusions based on our surface level understandings. As I said, we mostly look at behaviors and draw conclusions, which is not the correct way, right? So I think it requires us to work a little harder and develop not only understanding but right understanding. I always draw this parallel with what we say, couples, right? So look at a relationship between couple. It only becomes strengthened, or they connect both at rational and emotional plane only when they understand each other. If they don't understand each other, if there is lack of understanding between that couple, that we talk about, then do you think they stand any chance that the relationship will bloom, or the relationship will progress it will not. There will be a lot of misunderstanding, and that will bring about a strain in the relationship, which ultimately won't last, right? And it is sad because it started on a sweet note. So why should it end on that note, right? So the same thing happens with people. And again, engagement is a universal principle. It's not that it happens only, it happens at all levels, whether we talk about friends, whether we talk about organization between employers and employees, whether it is about the people who lead the nation and their electorate, or the citizens, or whether it is about people in the larger society, whether it is about with kids, anywhere, engagement principles are universal. Engagement is ability to connect at both the rational and emotional plane. That happens only when we have empathy and when we have understanding. So when I say stay connected, I mean that if we are not connected to people, we don't know their pulse, we don't know, we will not be able to lead them, manage them, or be able to influence their behaviors in the right way. We'll never be able to do that. The first and foremost is connection. That connection can happen or that engagement can happen only when we have an right understanding. So that's the foundation of building that connection. And without that connection, without engaging, without engagement, I don't think whatever we change we want to bring, the creative society foundations that you just talked about, those principles, those wonderful principles that you talked about, anything of that will be really possible. Because the first and foremost is connection. And that connection is built on the foundation of empathy.
Dr. Debashish, unfortunately, too many people nowadays around the whole globe, they suffer. Yeah. And a lot of them, they even do not believe that a better world is possible. They think that nothing can be changed. Yeah. And you wrote so much about engagement, yeah, and now you described the importance of creating this connection, yeah. What would you suggest for engaging everyone, engaging such people into building a better world?
See, I think that's where it's a good question, actually. That's where I always say that the role of leaders come, the vision of leaders come. Just to give you an example, I did some work in 2017 with a leading bank in Dubai, that bank, without naming that bank, that bank was at the verge of launching a millennial version of that bank, right? Which would be a completely digitized version, considering that millennials mostly prefer the digital way, right? But they found in their internal surveys that their managers were not doing particularly well when it came to managing millennials. And the scores, especially when it came to millennial employees, were particularly low. And that is when they decided to have all their managers go through a series of workshops, series of which will be focused on them to understand millennials and engage them better. The thought process, the vision was very simple. If you cannot understand your millennial employees whom you manage, what is the chance that you hold to understand your millennial customers? Charity begins from home. If you cannot understand your own family, what is the chance that you will go and understand people outside? It's very low, right? So I was lucky to be invited by them, and I was also fortunate to have run very successful programs for them. And they had a very successful launch of the Millennial Bank also. So version of the bank. So what I'm trying to say is this is not just true for organizations. This is true for any context that you talk about. Because I'm in the field of development, I primarily I'm a professor, I teach. I always went to my class from my first day in my teaching career until today, and always I believe that when I'm stepping into a classroom or a training room or a workshop, wherever I'm stepping in, I go with the belief that I can bring about some change, even if it is a small change in every participant who is in that room. I may not succeed. It's not that I will always succeed, but I go with that belief. I never go with that belief that no, okay, these out of this group appears to be very bright, so I can work with them. The rest, let them do whatever they want. No, I never gone with that belief. I think that is the belief with which every leader has to work. That okay, we can bring about that change. We can change the way people think. We can change the way people feel or believe or look at the world. So I think, and when you have that vision, I think that change is definitely possible. So I think it is definitely, I will put this on leadership vision, how, for that, of course, again, as I said, when we talk about leadership, you have to have that kind of honesty within the leaders, that kind of purpose within the leaders, that kind of vision is required. So I think we need to choose the right leaders, at whichever context we talk about, that's our role as a people, to choose the right leaders.
Yeah, somebody who will show the example. This is a leader for me, the proper example. So you just naturally follow the person, not because he said you do this or that. He shows you by all his own or her own attitude to the things you do together that this is the example. Yes, this is my leader.
And just to add to this is that for doing that, we have to rise above our narrow self-interest, because I think most of the times it's our narrow self-interest which weighs us down. And that's why we make wrong choices. We have to rise above that, and I go back to saying that when we are all okay, then we'll really be okay. It's not today, we don't live in that world. If we continue to believe that, okay, with my narrow self-interest, if I am okay, I don't care what happens to the other folks, that will really, hold me in good stead. That's not going to happen. I think that's the only way to choose correctly.
Yep. Yeah. And it's Dr. Debashish, it's extremely interesting to talk to you. And I would like we talk endless, but unfortunately we need to wrap up. And here's my last question, request for you. Who would you like to nominate for our next broadcast, please?
Well, I like to, there are many people who are there in my mind whom I would like to nominate, but because I have to take only one name, so I will think I'll nominate James Murphy. James is also my associate and a very good friend and a wonderful human being. He's from UK. He is the CEO of a company called the Responsible Partnership. And he does wonderful work in the area of sustainability. He's in the supporting local businesses in a big way, especially in this the pandemic crisis. And he also is the chief editor of The Future of Earth, which is a digital magazine with a very high readership across the world. I'm very fortunate to be associated as the Asia editor of that magazine. So I would like to nominate James Murphy.
Great, thank you very much. And by the way, Dr. Debashish, if you have other names in mind, please share with us. You can share with us later, because in the end, we want to talk to everyone, and we want everyone to know about the Creative Society project and about the possibility to change our world now altogether. Yeah. So yeah, and thank you so much for all your enriching answers today. Yeah, that was a really great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my pleasure. And before I would like to also thank both of you for being very generous host and asking me such a very interesting question. Yes, and also the Creative Society for giving me this wonderful platform and considering me that I can share something worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just to remind our viewers that to join the Creative Society project of ALLATRA International Public Movement, please visit website allatraunites.com, where you will see the red button at the upper right-hand corner to join. All you need is to register and complete a short and very easy form. The Creative Society project has inspired millions of people all over the world, and this number is growing every day, because Creative Society is what we all want, regardless of our nationality, language, age, gender, religion, or anything else. It is a safe, harmonious, friendly, prosperous society for everyone. Society where we all want to live and where we all deserve to live, finally.
And I would also like to thank you all for your time today, for your efforts to bring people together. And I hope more like-minded will join us and we can do even more together. As together we are stronger, guys. And taking an opportunity, I would like to invite you to get involved in our upcoming online international conference, Life After Death, Fictions and Facts. The purpose of this conference is to answer the question we all ask ourselves: what is the purpose of my life? What awaits me after the death of my body? Please join us on the 22nd May 2021 and we will answer that question. Here's a trailer for you, and thank you again. Dr. Debashish, you are wonderful. Thank you, Alexi. Thank you, technical support team. Bye now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There is a question that every person asks themselves. We address science and religion to find the answer to it. Already, for 6,000 years, we have been trying to find out. Is there life after death? For the first time in history, scientists, physicians, clergymen, and eyewitnesses will seek the answer all together. Does reincarnation exist? Fear of death, what is its nature? How do we, alive people, know what death is? Who benefits from hiding facts about a person's after-death fate? Human consciousness is outside the body. The prophets knew the truth about the afterlife fate of humans. What does science say? Is the state of heaven and hell explained by physics? What are we here for? Answers to the most important questions for every person. May 22nd, 2021, International Online Conference. Life After Death, Fiction and Facts.